Book of Heaven, Volume 6. 10th to the 23rd of August, 1904. Page 50–54. August 10, 1904. God knows the number, the value and the weight of all created things. As I was in my usual state, I found myself wandering around churches, making a pilgrimage to Jesus in the sacrament together with my guardian angel. In one of the churches I said, "Prisoner of love, you are here abandoned and alone, and I have come to keep you company. And while keeping you company I intend to love you for those who offend you, praise you for those who despise you, thank you for those in whom you pour graces, but do not render you the tribute of thanksgiving. Console you for those who afflict you, and repair for any offense against you. In a word, I intend to do for you all that creatures are obliged to do for you, for having remained in the most holy sacrament. And I intend to repeat this for as many drops of water, for as many fish and grains of sand as are in the sea." While I was saying this, all the waters of the sea became present before my mind, and I said within myself, "My sight cannot grasp the whole vastness of the sea, nor does it know the depth and the weight of those immense waters, but the Lord knows their number, weight and measure." And I stayed there, all marveling. At that moment blessed Jesus told me, "Silly, silly that you are, why do you marvel so much? What is difficult and impossible for the creature, is easy and possible, and also natural, for the Creator. It happens in this as to someone who, looking at millions and millions of coins in the twinkling of an eye, says to himself, 'They are innumerable, who can count them?' But the one who put them in that place tells everything in one word, 'They are this many, they are worth this much, they weigh this much.' My daughter, I know how many drops of water I myself put in the sea, and no one can disperse even a single one of them. I numbered everything, I weighed everything, I evaluated everything, and so with all the other things. So, what is the wonder if I know everything?" On hearing this, every marvel ceased, or rather, I marveled at my silliness. August 12, 1904. Man disperses the beauty with which God created him. As I continued struggling, all of a sudden I found all of myself inside our Lord, and from his head a shining thread descended into mine, which bound me completely inside of Jesus. Oh, how happy I was to be inside of him! As much as I looked, I could see nothing but him alone. This is my highest happiness, only Jesus, him alone and nothing else. Oh, how well one feels! Meanwhile he told me, "Courage, my daughter, don't you see how the thread of my wool binds you completely inside of me? So, if any other wool wants to bind you, if it is not holy it cannot, because since you are inside of me, if it is not holy it cannot enter into me." And while saying this, he looked at me over and over again, and then he added, "I created the soul with a rare beauty, I endowed her with a light superior to any other created light, and yet, man disperses this beauty inside ugliness, and this light inside darkness." August 14, 1904. The more the blows of the cross knock the soul down, the more light she acquires. As I was a little in suffering, blessed Jesus, on coming, said to me, "My beloved daughter, the more the iron is beaten, the more light it acquires, and even if the iron did not have rust, the blows serve to keep it shiny and free of dust. So, whoever comes close to that iron, can easily reflect himself in it as if it were a mirror." The same for the soul. The more the blows of the cross knock her down, the more light she acquires, and she maintains herself dusted of any slightest thing, in such a way that whoever comes close to her can reflect himself in her as if she were a mirror. And, naturally, being a mirror, she performs its office, to show whether faces are stained or clean, whether they are beautiful or ugly. Not only this, but I myself delight in going to reflect myself in her, and finding in her no dust or any other thing that may prevent me from reflecting my image in her, I love her more and more. August 15, 1904. Melancholy is to the soul as winter to the plants. The triumph of the Church is not far. This morning I felt all oppressed, with a melancholy that filled my whole soul. It seemed that blessed Jesus did not let me struggle too much, and on seeing me so oppressed, he told me, "My daughter, why this melancholy? Don't you know that melancholy is to the soul as winter to the plants, as it strips them of the leaves and prevents them from producing flowers and fruits? So much so, that if the gaiety of spring and of heat did not come, the poor plants would remain incapacitated and would end up withering? Such is melancholy for the soul. It strips her of divine freshness, which is like rain that makes the virtues turn all green again. It renders her incapable of doing good, and if she does good, she does it with difficulty and almost out of necessity, not out of virtue. It prevents her from growing in grace, and if she does not stir herself with a holy gaiety, which is spring rain that gives development to the plants in a very short time, she will end up withering in good. Now, while he was saying this, in one flash I saw the whole church, the wars which the religious must go through and which they must receive from others, and wars among societies. There seemed to be a general uproar. It also seemed that the Holy Father would make use of very few religious people, both for bringing the state of the Church, the priests and others to good order, and for the society in this state of turmoils. Now, while I was seeing this, blessed Jesus told me, "Do you think that the triumph of the Church is far?" And I, "Yes indeed. Who can put order in so many things that are messed up?" And he, "On the contrary, I tell you that it is near. It takes a clash, but a strong one, and therefore I will permit everything together, among religious and secular, so as to shorten the time. And in the midst of this clash, all of big chaos, there will be a good and orderly clash, but in such a state of mortification, that men will see themselves as lost. However, I will give them so much grace and light that they may recognize what is evil and embrace the truth, making you suffer also for this purpose. If with all this they do not listen to me, then I will take you to heaven, and things will happen even more gravely, and will drag on a little longer before the longed-for triumph." August 23, 1904. Chastisements also in Italy. This morning I went through a most bitter time, almost completely deprived of my blessed Jesus. Only, I found myself outside of myself in the midst of wars, people killed, towns besieged, and it seemed that this was also in Italy. What fright I felt! I wanted to remove myself from scenes so sorrowful, but I could not. A supreme power kept me nailed. Whether it was an angel or a saint I am unable to tell with certainty, but someone said, "Poor Italy, how lacerated she will be by wars." On hearing this, I remained more than frightened, and I found myself inside myself. Not having yet seen the one who is my life, and with all those scenes in my mind, I felt I was dying. Then, I just barely saw his arm, and he said to me, "There will be something in Italy for certain."